Hey guys, this is KSB with Tape, and today you join me for episode 3 of KSB Outer Planets, and today we're going to put Kerbals on Tekto. And today we have a Saturn V looking vehicle using the KW rocketry pack, which I forgot that the engines spool up, so it kind of slammed into the launch pad. But anyway, yes, this is the first module of my large ship heading for Tekto, a moon of Sarnus. Yeah, I'm using a giant rocket for just the first module because Sarnus is really far away and I like to overbuild rockets and I really like Saturn V's. Anyway, this is a pretty long video already, so let's speed this into 4 times time accelerator. It didn't go all the way to orbit atop this gigantic vehicle of awesomeness. I really do like the KW pack. As I've said many a time, look how awesome this looks. And the stage separation, as you'll see in a little bit, actually looks pretty Saturn V-y because of the way the interstage falls away. I should really put a camera on there once and stage a proper Saturn V thing. We've got something hitting the ground over there. I think that may have been a previous attempt. This did take a lot of attempts in the stream. I was just editing this. I was like, oh my god, Peter, be better at KSP. I hate editing my stuff. No, it was just, I don't know. It was a lot of cutting stuff out. Anyway, I'm breaking the magic, aren't I? Oh, I'm sorry. Anyway, let's, well, probably fix this orbit. It's all not properly circular, and I have a lot of fuel left. Annoyingly, I can't use this because this is the top module, which is kind of annoying because it would be nice to be able to use all this, but I'm building a pretty big thing anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So yeah, a little bit of a waste of fuel, but real rockets waste fuel all the time. That's just how it goes. And yeah. And let's watch this separate in slow motion, in normal motion. I know I sped through half the fairing separation, but yeah, I quite like how those fairings separate. And this is basically our return module and living module, because it has the living can and the main command module. Obviously not a lot of living space for what'll probably be like a 5-year mission, but still, it'll be totally comfortable, and this is how they'll return. They'll leave everything else behind. So yeah. But on the way out there will be the lander, which is what we're launching now. So there'll be a little more space to live in, and get away from your other crewmates. I think is it an all-women spacecraft? I remember making some sort of joke about that in the live stream. I think it's an all-female spacecraft. Yeah. Anyway, I seem to always have like way more like women pilots and stuff than males now. I think they oversaturated it. Really breaking that glass ceiling, or in this case, the ceiling made of fire. Anyway, we are through the fire ceiling, and now it's time to send this to the spacecraft. And this is more of a stock type, although it did have a KW lower stage. But yeah, it's got a stock fairings and stuff. But yeah, this is our lander for landing on Tekto. Now the thing about Tekto is it has very low gravity. Well, it's a kind of similar to a little bigger than the moon. The Kerbal moon, that is, and it has a very thick atmosphere, so this is a little more powerful and has a little more fuel than a standard moon lander, and hopefully it'll be able to do the job. Who knows, it's pretty hard to test this sort of thing. I guess I could go to the moon, but it wouldn't be super helpful. Anyway, after a quick prograde burn to put myself on target in my next orbit, I arrive at the spacecraft, and it's just a fairly standard approach, but yeah, that's basically how I did it. If you're in front of a target, in your orbit, if you burn prograde, it'll slow you down overall, so the when you next come around in the orbit, you'll be close to the target, and vice versa. So yeah, that's how I do that sort of thing. And then just the approach was fairly standard, so I cut it out, and you know, long video and all that. Anyway, it is time for the final module to be launched atop another big old Saturn V thing. It's also very nice, and these are 5-meter rockets, by the way, these Saturn V's. I like the 5-meter rocket. It gives you quite a lot of stability. Makes shaking around irrelevant. Should have edited out that pause. Good job, me. It was a live stream. It's hard to, well, I would have to watch through like 3 hours of footage, so my edits are a bit more remembrance than watching through. Anyway, what was I saying? Something about going through the fire again, and then this time we're actually pretty well on target for our spacecraft. And we have a lot of fuel to just match velocities, which is good because this is a really heavy payload. This is probably the only payload that actually warrants a rocket this big, and probably doesn't even, but this is the transfer stage, which is a nuclear stage with a bunch of liquid fuel. Obviously no oxidizer, since that has changed. Anyway, let's just burn at the target, because we're really near to it, and I just need to null my velocity, so I have a little time to think. So yeah, now we're just going to head aggressively at the target, because if I have enough fuel, I usually just go really aggressively, because it's easier and more fun. But at the same time, I do like making like slow approaches and things. That is, you know, interesting to do and more realistic. But yeah, I don't know. You can just have a lot of fun in KSP, because you usually have a lot more Delta V. And there's no real risk of making anything go wrong. And you don't really have any mass constraints, because you can do what you like. Anyway, this mental RCS system I equipped this stage with is going to be used to dock this. However, it didn't really help, because all the RCS thrusters are down at the bottom. So yeah, after like about half an hour of trying to dock, I finally did it. I did leave that out of the video, because I didn't think you want to see that, and after this docking I rage quit the live stream. And and then I came back a few days after. But yeah, that's all constructed and good, except for when I decouple all of the support struts and there's this weird oscillation. It's because they keep slightly touching each other and inducing a force, I believe, and then it just explodes. So yeah, we need a new one of those, with a few more struts. Basically, I think it's because they're so close and they're not like held together, so they slightly touch each other and they bounce off each other and they keep coming back and swaying and smashing each other up. But anyway, yeah, we're just going to launch the same thing, and I'm pretty much just going to cut through this in a few seconds because you've seen it before, and again, long video, and I want to spend more time out at Sarnus than time on Kerbin, because you know what Kerbin looks like. It looks beautiful, and I fly over all of it in collaborative warfare, so if you really want a good look at Kerbin, it's actually a good idea to watch collaborative warfare, because I'm obviously flying to so many places to murder my enemies. Yeah. Anyway, after a nice little fade cut, we're just about to dock, and this one was done way better because I lined it up properly and wasn't so aggressive. So yeah, here we are at the docking thing. So yeah, anyway, it's time to go to Sarnus, really, isn't it? So here we are. I left all the engine fairings on because if I fired them off, they'd like smash the engines off. So that'd be a problem. So yeah, I left them on except for like one that I decoupled just for giggles. And yeah, I also forgot radiators on this, so this might just explode. It's one of those things you don't think about if you've been playing it for so long without radiators. You're like, oh shit, radiators. But yeah. Anyway, obviously I can't keep burning down at the planet like this for too long because although this is the most efficient way to do it, I'm gonna deorbit myself. But I try and hold out for as long as possible before I just flick up to the horizon and burn prograde, which does send me off course a little bit, but you know, it's a necessity. I accelerate slowly, so that happens. That's just how it goes. But you know, it works out. Anyway, but yeah, I will be cutting through this again. This was an incredibly long burn because it's not a great frame rate. I'm having some weird frame rate issues with KSP recently. I think my computer's dying. But in 1.1, KSP version 1.1, there will be support for using multiple cores in your processor for physics. So, oh my god, it's going to be so much freaking better. Not entirely, because it still has to center around one core, but it should be, you know, better. Anyway, cutting through this, since it did take an eternity, it is time to, well, this is us finishing off our burn. We're nowhere near Kerbal anymore, and you can see how much overheating the stage went through. All of those meters on there. I like having them because I need to know if stuff's overheating. And that is just, yeah, the transfer stage got pretty hot during the burn because it was so long, and so much nuclear shit going on, and all of that. But yeah, we did get pretty far away from the planet before we finished our burn. And the Kerbals are all pretty bored, just like, oh. And I did burn way too much fuel as well. So, yeah, could be problematic out at Sarnus. Well, not so much out at Sarnus, but when we try and get back, it might be problematic. But hey, maybe they'll drift in space forever. But we'll find out. I don't even know. I haven't recorded this yet. So yeah, just a pretty long burn. And I did leave this in just to kind of illustrate that how little it moves and how slow the burn was. And maybe I left this scene a little long, but still. And the moon there, not going to see that for a long time. See lots of other moons, and maybe even, I think Elu orbits Sarnus now. It's either Sarnus or one of the other planets. No, it is Sarnus, because I almost went there to troll people, so I'd be like, oh, yeah, let's go to this totally new place. Oh, wait, no, it's not. Although, looking at Sarnus from Elu would be quite cool. But then looking at Sarnus from anywhere is pretty cool. I mean, Sarnus is pretty awesome. And, oh yeah, I overburdened because I was in the wrong position. So yeah, wasted even more Delta V. So good job, me. Anyway, cutting ahead. Again, long video, cutting ahead. Here's my quick little plane change. Well, not plane, well, it's like, yeah, it is a plane change. put myself on course for Sarnus, and then I'm going to make a little correction in a little bit. These are all most of these maneuvers are sped up now, just because it makes them a little snappier, and so you still get the gist of what's going on. Anyway, yeah, this is my my fine tune, so I get much closer down to Sarnus, and I think at some point in this episode I'm actually going to fly through Sarnus's rings. Indeed, I know, crazy shit. Anyway, after a huge amount of drifting in and a huge amount of falling to Sarnus, which you have seen in the previous 2 episodes, we arrive at Sarnus, and then we see the beauty that is Sarnus itself, with its rings, its the kind of subdued pink atmosphere. It's kind of like, it looks like it's been drawn with chalk. And now it's just time to slow down, put ourselves in an eccentric, not an eccentric orbit, yeah, an eccentric orbit. I was thinking, yeah, that is right. Or elliptical orbit, what am I on about? I think that means the same thing. I've totally forgot, yeah, I got eccentric confused with inclined for some reason. Anyway, yeah, I'm going to leave myself in an eccentric orbit to make it easier to get to Tekto, because I don't want to waste delta V going into a circular orbit and then just boosting back out. And we don't have a lot of fuel, because I wasted most of it. Yeah, but here we are. The Kerbals look... Actually, their faces don't appear to be moving. I think they're dead. Or just so bored that they've forgotten how to move, because they've been in space for... Yeah, I think that says 5 years. I can't really see because it's tiny, and my post-production screen's not very high resolution. Yeah, I think they've already been in space for almost 6 years, and I didn't move them out of the pod, so yeah. And one of them's not even going to get to stretch their legs. I mean, freaking, Paul Collins, I mean, he must have been pretty butthurt to be left in the capsule while the guys walk around, but no compared to the person who gets left around Tekto and isn't allowed to walk around. She is gonna be pissed. It's like, I have to stay in this tiny little capsule more? Yeah. That'd be annoying. But anyway, yeah, again, this was quite a long burn, but, you know, if you cut out all the burns in KSP, there's not much else that goes on, but I did speed it up in the gameplay. But yeah, and you can see Slate over there on the left, which is a very beautiful place. It's just quite nice to be near Sarnus, because there's so many things to look at. It's the same with being at Jewel, really. There's so many moons, you see them all the time. It's like, oh my god. I do love Jewel, but I've done that a lot, so I thought Sarnus would be more of a like apt sort of, well, more of an interesting series. Anyway, I've got a lot of changes and maneuvers to do because I'm not smart enough to do it all in one. So yeah, quick plane change. Quick, it's not super quick, but you know, it's just a matter of keeping the engines on, keep the burning going and all that stuff. And you can see all these, you can still kind of see the moons and all the darkness, but yeah, we're very inclined, so the burn will take a while. But we did bring a lot of fuel in this transfer stage. It's like a really big transfer stage, and I probably shouldn't have used 4 engines, but you know, well, all these burns took ages anyway, so 4 engines was kind of needed. I doubt would have been able to properly leave Kerbal with 2. Well, it could have been multiple burns, but I don't like doing multiple burns. I just like getting out of Kerbal. So yeah, we're about to actually run out of fuel and have to use some of the return stage. However, the return stage is meant for that. It's not entirely a return stage, it's also for maneuvering around Sarnus. So, you know, it's fine. It's all going to plan. Well, it's not exactly going to plan. I'd like to have had a little more fuel in this transfer stage, but you know, stuff happens, so yeah, you will forgive me for all of that. And yeah, we're about to run out of fuel there. And I guess decouple the stage to drift around Sarnus for eternity until my computer drive is erased. But anyway, it is time to, well, ignite this engine and burn off a little more fuel and things and just kind of, well, get this all done and head on to Tekto because, well, it is quite hard to maneuver stuff around Tekto because there's so much, well, there's such high gravity, not around Tekto, around Sarnus, there's such high gravity that plane changes are quite difficult, and maneuvers take a lot of delta V, and I don't know. But anyway, the rest of these burns are sped up just for a little bit of your sanity, because I'm sure you are probably a little tired of seeing engines burn for now. But anyway, the next cool thing we get is flying through the rings of Sarnus, and here we are approaching them just kind of rather fast. And yeah, not that impressive flying through them. It's better to be just underneath them because they phase out, and then And then you just kind of float through them because they're like a 2D image. So not super impressive, but when you're near them, they do look really cool. Like this is a way better shot than flying through them. But yeah, I would like to land on the rock that is in the middle of the rings at some point. I think that would be quite cool. And I think that's Elu just above the rings over there. Well, not now, but you could see it just then. I think, well, Elu's... I really do like Elu. It was one, I think, wasn't it like the last planet added? Because I think it was added before I started playing KSP. Well, anyway, let's perform our... perform a final burn, I believe, to get to Tekto. Yeah, I've also sped through this burn because again, long burns and all that stuff, kind of boring to watch. But that is the reality of moving around Tekto when you're not moving around like planets like Sarnus to get to moons. When you're not super experienced in planning very smart maneuvers, you just do lots of maneuvers, and it's probably very inefficient. But usually during a live stream, I'm not paying too much attention, so that's probably one of the other reasons. Anyway, we're actually burning right at Sarnus at this point, but that will move us on to Tekto, which is well, what we want. And anyway, one more freaking burn, and then we'll be really close to Tekto. I promise this is the last freaking one. Let's just finish this off by well, I jumped in halfway through this burn because it did take a while, so yeah, you didn't have to watch all of that. But yeah, I think in future I'm going to try and do this with much less burns, just because it's kind of maddening, really. I mean, it is the reality, though, is a lot of plane changes. I'm sure I could have thought of, you know, prepared one very smart one, but it's, well, it's much easier to plan lots of different ones, and probably more efficient, unless you're me and plan it like I did, because I've probably burned off, like, so much Delta V at this point that it's just ridiculous. Anyway, I'm getting loads of encounters with moons. That's the other thing I like about Sarnus and Jewel and things, is you can just fly around randomly and get like so many encounters with so many different moons that it is just a bit ridiculous. Because, well, they're everywhere and they have reasonably large gravity wells, especially with things like Tylo, the really big one around Jewel, that will pull you in pretty easily. It's like almost Kerbal size, really. Anyway, there we are, low down above Tekto, and actually, in fact, inside its atmosphere, as you can see here, and totally not just stopping there to speed up this burn. I've actually done that twice in this episode. If you can find the other place, you get some points or something. Yeah. After watching a few burns, I'm like, okay, I've got to speed some of these up. So yeah, sometimes I edit on the go. But yeah, anyway, so most of this is sped up until I touch the ground, because little bit tedious at this point. But anyway, let's pull ourselves down, although I've passed over the periaps, so it's going to be a bit of a weird orbit, so I might have to make another pass. I also need to make a prograde burn, because my periaps is within the atmosphere, and only part of this needs to go to within the atmosphere. Anyway, yeah, just making... Oh, I think I cut out the little burn to pull it out of the atmosphere. But anyway, that's what happened. And then just a quick retrograde burn to actually circularize this orbit, which will make it much easier to reach from the surface, although it has a very high atmosphere, so that might be... I'm a little worried about getting off Tekto at this point. But anyway, it's pretty much time to go now. Go down to Tekto. Luckily it has an atmosphere, so I can land on parachutes. So that's pretty okay. Anyway, I left this all sped up just because, well, you know. But that looked pretty frenetic, me transferring those Kerbals at 4 times time. We started like, get in. But yeah, the person left in orbit will be probably very annoyed. I'm using an aerospike. Someone actually suggested that in the comments. I'd already recorded this though, so that was totally my idea. Yeah, but the aerospike is probably best for this sort of thing, and it has a very high ISP everywhere, which is quite nice. So that's why I used it, and a lot of thrust, which is quite useful, because this is a pretty bulky lander. I mean, it's quite condensed, but yeah. Anyway, throwing ourselves down onto the surface now. Yeah, there's Sarnus rise. It's really nice to see Sarnus rise. Look at that. It's so cool. That's my mouse freaking out from in the live stream where it's like, oh my god! That's, yeah, I spent a great deal of time just being like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god! But yeah, I assume that was the thumbnail for the video. Obviously, I haven't made the thumbnail yet, but anyway, it's time to touch down. Well, time to descend more than touch down and pull our chutes at some point. I actually leave it quite late because it'll take freaking ages. And I obviously left this sped up because falling through Tekto is kind of like falling through tar. It takes a while, especially in like a big bulky spacecraft like this. But luckily the gravity is fairly low, so hopefully I'll be able to get out. And I probably should have made this more aerodynamic, really. I mean, I just didn't really think about it. Whenever I make like landers for moons, I never really, or even planets, really, I never really think about their aerodynamics, because most of them, well, I mean, on Duna, it's really thin atmosphere. I've never successfully left Eve, and the rest don't have atmospheres. So yeah, but anyway, we're about to touch. I should probably try and successfully leave Eve. That sounds like a plan. Anyway, it's time to almost, in a bit, touch down on Tekto for the first time with Kerbals. This is the furthest Kerbals have ever travelled. It is the furthest they, well, it's the most atmospheres they've ever endured. They'll probably just be crushed in it. It'll be like the opposite of being in space. But of course you don't explode in space. That's so foolish. People are like, but there's different pressures. Yeah, but there's not enough difference in pressure to like have enough force to break the human body. The human body is very hardy. Like that guy who apparently survived a plane crash in Britain a few days ago, like in the plane. I mean, that's a testament to how hardy human bodies are. But anyway, that got a little bit of a dark subject. But anyway, let's put our flag down. I think this is the like weird circly flag. Oh no, yeah. I like that flag. I should have brought my Territorial Arctic Protection Entente flag. Just have all the propaganda for everything. And I always spend ages trying to think of a clever site name, and then I'm just like, First Landing! Or just First Contact, to make a Star Trek reference, I guess, because it's the first contact with Tekto. Although not really, because I put a thing down. You can see how long I'm thinking, just like, what do I type? I've got to be smart. But yeah, I would love to bring like a rover here, and I think I will at some point. Maybe put a base down. I mean, the problem with putting bases down on Tekto is it's really just quite gloomy. I'd like to do it on Slate though. Slate has a very high gravity, but I'd like to figure Slate out. Seriously, what the hell was I doing here? I think I might have just been reading Twitch chat. But yeah, I'd love to drive along Slate. Slate has a mountain range I'd like to take a look at. Shame it doesn't have an atmosphere, so I could fly across it. But you know, and then just Tekto motherfucker, because I'm that inventive. One small step for man, motherfuckers, and then just jump off the limb. I wouldn't have made a very good Neil Armstrong. But anyway, let's try and get back in our lander. Didn't bring a ladder, just kind of assumed that my RCS pack would work. That'd be great having to leave him here because he literally can't get in the thing. Anyway, let's grab and then climb up, because that's a feature now, which is a good feature, but annoying when you're trying to get in the pod. But anyway, it is, that's the end of the episode. A lot of burns, bit of landing. But I hope you've enjoyed this. This has been KSP with Tape. I will see you next time.